We're live. It's 2023. Live from the Home Assistant headquarters. Mike and Paulus bringing you Year of the Voice, Chapter 1. Hello,
Hello, everyone.
hello. Welcome, everybody. This is, we're going to talk voice today. I'm going to quickly show the slides. Just a quick introduction. My name is Paulus Schoutse. I'm the founder of Home Assistant. I'm joined today by Mike Hansen. He's the founder of Raspberry, but he is also an employee of Nabukasa. He's working full-time on bringing voice to Home Assistant. We've been super hard at work for like the last month, not just the two of us, but like a whole bunch of people in our community. And today it's just the first progress report / deliverable. We're going to show you kind of stuff that you can already play with. We are super excited about it. We've showed it to some people. They're super excited about it. So we think you're going to be super excited about it. Not everything will be available today. Some things will be in the beta. Some things are in the betas of other stuff. So we'll get there when we get there. First, I just want to talk quickly. Why do we do this, right? So who are we? Why are we doing this full time? Why are we building voice? So both Mike and I, we work at Nabukasa. Nabukasa is a company that I started. And Nabukasa exists to further develop Home Assistant. It does so by hiring developers full time. They work on Home Assistant. Home Assistant is given away for free to users. Users can choose to support Nabukasa if they want or if they don't want. And if they do, then that money goes to Nabukasa, which then pays our bills so we can work on Home Assistant. And that's also part of how this year we're doing the Year of the Voice, because one of the enhancements we want to bring to Home Assistant is that you can use your voice. And to talk more about that, I'm going to give the word to Mike.
Hey, everyone. So welcome to the Year of Voice. We're now, 26 days in? Something like that. Yeah, it's going great so far. This is just the first chapter of, I assume, what will be 12 chapters. We'll see. So kind of the goal of Year of Voice broadly is that we want people to be able to interact with their Home Assistant in their native language. So we're going for breadth here and not for depth, like something like an Alexa might do. So we're not trying to clone Alexa or anything like that. And as you can see, it would have been a bad idea since those kinds of things are crashing and burning right now financially for them. Instead, what we're doing is working on some basic command and control sentences for IoT only. So not about asking jokes and stuff to Home Assistant. And we're trying to do it in as many languages as possible. And we're doing that by crowdsourcing from the community. All right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about where we are starting and where we're ending. So this is chapter 1, but in some ways we're kind of starting at the end of the book and working backwards, because that's where the difficulty arrow goes. One of the medium difficult things in this process is actually the speech to text portion. If you want to move that along. So taking a user's recorded voice, turning it into text is something that's difficult to do in a lot of languages and very difficult to do correct all the time. And probably something that's even harder than that is actually getting the audio from a user. Surprisingly, you'd think this would be easy as just recording, but there's actually a ton of hardware processing and AI models that work in between to filter out noise, to like separate speakers, and sometimes to identify speakers to make sure your kids can't open the garage door or something like that. And then of course there's the hardware itself involved that you need to have high quality recording and all that. So what we're doing instead is we're starting at the end. In this first release, we're taking text from wherever we can get it, and the goal is to take what the user said and recognize what the user wants. That's the intent, or their intention. Home Assistant already does what you see on the right. Once you have what the user wants to do, it can do it. That's kind of its whole thing. And then once it's done it, it has some kind of response that we can come back to get text from, transform that into speech, and give that back to the user. So we're leapfrogging, and then we're going to work our way back over the year. So the way we're doing this is with two integrations that actually have existed in Home Assistant for a long time that Paulus originally wrote. The first is the conversation integration that takes in text and transforms it into an intent through some recognition process. And then the intent integration takes an intent, does the action that the user wants, and provides a response. And so the text pieces you see are what we're crowdsourcing from people. And the intents we've already actually had in Home Assistant, so we're reusing those. We've kind of deprecated a few and merged a few together to simplify things. All right, so we've been crowdsourcing over the last month and a half or so from a lot of different folks. We have 36 languages that we've started already. These at least have one sentence translated, and 22 languages we'd consider complete. They have all their sentences and responses translated for basic functionality. So this functionality is things like, turning devices on and off, or affecting areas, setting light brightness, colors, things like that. So these are basic IoT things, but still very useful to get started with. And so big thanks to our voice community there. The way that we're crowdsourcing this is we have people come in and write what's called sentence templates. So rather than list out every single possible way of saying it, we have them almost list out all the possible ways of saying it. This little syntax lets you kind of compress a space of sentences down into a template. And then we have these curly brace placeholders where you can say, this is where an entity name from Home Assistant is going to go in. And right now what we're doing is, this is just a simple text matching algorithm, not very sophisticated, but it's something that could run on really low end systems like a Raspberry Pi with no extra hardware, no AI models or anything. But the plan is we can take this and it can be both a recognizer and a generator. So we can generate sentences from this and use that to train AI models in the future that will be more flexible and more sophisticated. And here's a shot of kind of part of the status page. We track each language, how many translated sentences and responses are in there. And you can see we got a lot of green. These are the languages that have at least the minimum set of sentences and responses translated. And on the very right, you can see we've had people volunteer as language leaders. So they're kind of managing PRs, and people are able to coordinate in their native language and make sure things, are something that would actually be said by somebody, and responses that are actually going to come back. Now this is kind of a version 1, so there's more complexities to each language that we're going to have to deal with over time. For example, in some languages, you might have a gender associated with a noun, and so you might have a name in one name in your Home Assistant, but it needs to be recognized in a bunch of different forms. English kind of lightly has this with singular and plural. And so those kind of complexities are things we're going to look at over the course of the year and try and figure out for each language here what we can do to get something that works. We don't need to cover every single case ever, but we'd like to get something that works well for everybody.
Right. So we took all this work, we took all these sentences, and Mike said we have 22 sentences that are complete. We had, from the top of my head, 122 people contributing the last month through to all these different languages. So that's really amazing to see, because this is just month 1 and we're already off to a great start. What we did is that we took all this intent matching and we took this intent recognizer that Mike wrote and we put it in Home Assistant, and it's powering our conversation integration. And we've renamed this feature so that it's more recognizable across all these different interfaces that you can interface with it, and we're calling it Assist. So Assist is a way to interact with your Home Assistant installation with natural language. You will be able to find it on your dashboards in the top right. You can see this icon. If you're on mobile, it will actually be inside the ... Now, we're going to show you some demos of how this works. Mike, you want to go first?
Sure. All right, so here I've got a demo Home Assistant setup. So these are just all demo entities. And you can see in the upper right, I have the assist there. So you can click that and start typing. I can say things like turn off for bed light. And you can see it turns this off over here. So basically, you can turn on and off any entity. You can also affect areas. So let's say I have all these lights off. I can say turn on all the lights in the bedroom, and it will go ahead and do that. You can also do things like set bedroom lights to green. So I can modify brightness and color of an area, open and close doors, and affect on and off status of entities. You can also do things like close windows in the living room, and it'll do that. So these are very basic ways of interacting, but we're gonna grow this and find all sorts of different ways that people might say this, and we'll talk a little bit more about how you can kind of customize this a little bit more. Oh, go ahead, Paulus. Were you gonna say something?
Oh yeah, I was just saying, I see you in the comments saying, wow, this is really quick. And one reason why it's very quick is because these are demo entities. So these are not real lights, not real windows. What happens with voice assistants is that we want to report if a command is successful. So what tends to happen when Google and stuff talks to your actual lights in Home Assistant, it has to send that command to the light and then get the response back. So also assist will be slower with real lights, but still it will be, pretty fast.
Yeah, so what you're seeing is the speed of the assist itself, parsing the sentence and recognizing the text. So it's pretty fast. Like I said, it's meant to run on low-end hardware, but it can instantaneously change the state on the demo entities. Let's see. All right, what are we up to next then?
You want to do your watch?
Yeah, so let me pull this up. Right, so this is, I think, where it starts to get really cool. So this is my Pixel watch. And so what we have set up is the Home Assistant companion app for Android has a new tile called Assist. Go figure. And what you can do is use the speech to text feature on your watch. Set bedroom lights to red. And now you can see that the lights changed to red. So anything that you can type up in the assist, you can also use on the watch, and you can see that the response comes through below, and go back and do that. And so this will do a couple of interesting things. It will use the language that's on your phone. So if, for example, if you use the aliases feature, I'm not going to be brave enough to try and speak some German here, but you can add an alias in a different language. And then if my watch, for example, was set to German and I spoke some German, I could speak a German sentence, even though Home Assistant itself is set to English. So you can have multiple languages that'll work together here. All
right, now I will do my part of the live demo. Yours went surprisingly super well. So now let's see. So I have set up Home Assistant here. And I'm actually going to see if I can make this a little smaller, because it's not that, we just want to see that the voice commands succeed, right? So I'm going to do like this. Sorry, Mike, I'm going to put you right back.
That's
so,
okay.
Well, Mike just showed the Android side of things. I'm doing the Apple side of things. And so for Apple, we've actually been able to integrate it into Siri. So what happens is that Apple has this application that is on your Mac and on your phone and on your watch. It's called Shortcuts. And you can name a shortcut a name, and then it will be activated on Siri. You can also, of course, activate it manually from like your taskbar on your Mac, or from a complication on your watch, or from a button on your phone. And when you activate it, it will give you your own personal prompt. And then you can, say something and it will be sent. So I'm gonna show this right now here, and I have a HomePod here. So let's see if this works. Hey Siri, assist.
How can I assist?
Turn off the standing light.
Okay.
So as you can see, all of a sudden Siri now, even if you are somewhere in the room, as long as your HomePod can hear you, you can control this. Now, of course, this works from your watch, this works from your phone, But on the phone, there's another interesting thing, because on your phone and on your Mac, you can actually set up shortcuts to also speak different languages. So to do that, I've also set up aliases, just like Mike has. So I'm just going to quickly make it a little bigger so you can see. If you go to my aliases, you can see I have German, I have French, and I have Dutch. I have 2 Dutch because one is correct, the other one is how speech to text it sometimes translates. So I'm going to use my phone, and I'm going to like show you. First, I'll show it in Dutch. Mag de staarlamp aan? So this is in Dutch. Now, of course, we can do it in German. Schaut de steelamp aus? And now, by the way, while Mike was testing this on a fake light, this is actually my real standing light in my living room. It's a Zigbee Philips light, and it's working pretty well. So that's good. And now, of course, in French, which this is going to sound horrible, but generally it gets it. Allume la lampe sur pied. Boom.
Hey, all right.
There you go. So yeah, this is on Siri. The three different languages I've manually triggered, so I can like trigger the languages. The shortcuts are kind of nice, is that like in the documentation of Home Assistant, there will just be buttons. They link to iCloud. You click on it, it will open the shortcut app on your computer, and it will show you the shortcut and allow you to import it right away, and everything is set up. I will actually quickly open the shortcut app. I thought I had it prepared, but I didn't. But I'm gonna show how it works because it's actually kind of cool. So, I mean, everything we do today is cool, but this is like exceptionally cool. Let me just stop sharing this window. So what is very interesting, there you go. And just make it a bit bigger. So the way it works is that in shortcuts, you can ask for a text, and then it will use speech to text. Now, you can actually, this is the assist one. This is the one for Siri. So it always uses the language that Siri uses. And then it will just send it to Home Assistant. So in the Home Assistant Apple app, so this is the one for Mac and iOS, you can now just send text to the assist command. So you can actually choose a server. If you have multiple servers, you can actually choose the shortcut which server you want to. If you could create multiple shortcuts to multiple servers. If you do not pick a server, it will actually ask you, but that's kind of annoying because you want to get something done. If you're using the other shortcut, you can actually, it uses a different way to get the text. You can pick the language, and you can also choose a language here that Home Assistant has to support. Now, the name that you tell Siri is the name of the shortcut. So you can actually, you don't have to use the word assist. You don't have to use the how can I assist prompt to kind of answer it. You can kind of like, if you want to say party, or yo as like a prompt, all of those things will be possible. Right.
And of course, this is all working under the hood through the conversation service in Home Assistant. So you can write your own client too, where you just send text in a language.
Right. I mean, I expect that like, we have this API is open, and I expect that there will be more ways that like people will do speech to text. Probably Windows might have something built in that people can leverage so they can do something like this. So yeah, let me just put my slides back up. Yeah, so this is kind of just an overview of like where Assist is available. So it is available on iPhones, on Android Wear, and Siri, and in Home Assistant. And as you can see, we've kind of outsourced the speech to text to both Apple and Google to help us like, get something usable for everybody here. This, of course, is not our end goal. Let me just, so, the way you kind of can see what kind of like experience you have, it kind of depends on like what kind of cloud is powering it, right? The voice part. So if you use like a Google today or an Amazon, you use like what's an IoT cloud, which it knows which lights you have. It knows that they are lights. It knows that like, it basically knows everything about your house, every interaction. What we're getting to now is more like a generic cloud. Like we use a speech to text API. It doesn't know actually how the output text is going to be used, if it is useful, what kind of lights it refers to, what models of lights, how long you've been using it, what kind of interactions were happening to that light outside of voice. All that stuff is not known by the cloud. So right now we're actually at like, using Apple and Google, and some things they'll actually process locally, some things they'll do in their generic cloud speech to text stuff. So that's where we're at. And of course, our end goal is going to be that we want to offer an option to do it fully local. So running speech to text local, running text to speech local. The big downside there is, of course, that you need hardware, right? Like this is not Raspberry Pi territory. You need like something more powerful. So we're probably going to lean between like giving you options between generic cloud and no cloud. And well, I mean, this is Home Assistant. So if you want to still use Google, you can, of course, do that too. So you can always pick kind of like what level of convenience versus performance versus privacy versus how much hardware you need to buy.
Yeah, I think there will be options for lower end hardware if you're willing to accept kind of restrictions on the types of sentences you can speak. If you stick with the very basic small set, turn this on, turn this off kind of stuff, then you can get away with a lot more on low end hardware. But if you wanted to recognize general stuff that we'll talk about here in a bit, then that's kind of running something like Whisper is not going to do well on a Raspberry Pi 4. I've done it. It's about a 4-to-1 ratio, 8 seconds or so to process 2 seconds of text. So if you're patient.
So Whisper is a newish text to speech or speech to text model released for free by OpenAI, right? Yeah. All right, so we talk about the next part?
Yeah, let's move on to the next part. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about customization here. Like Paula said, the API is open, and so is the backend for the actual sentence processing. So what you can do is there's two main ways to customize this. You have the built-in sentences, and those are going to come in the Home Assistant.
Wait, one second, Mike. Can you zoom in a little?
Yeah. Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the built-in sentences are going to come in the next version of Home Assistant inside. And so what you can do is you can add to them, or you can add your own. So you can extend, and you can add your own. So here's an example in the YAML where the has turn on is a built-in intent. All the ones with the has in front are going to be. And instead of saying turn on, I decided I want to also be able to say activate, the bed light, activate the garage door even would work there. And here's an example of a totally custom one. So I create my own intent. This is it's really just a name of the thing I want to happen inside Home Assistant. And here's the sentence I want to say I've engaged stealth mode, and I have an automation written called stealth mode. Over here in the intent script automation, I catch it and perform an action and give a response. What's cool is this can be any action in Home Assistant, including multiple ones. So you can call services, you can fire off events, all of that fun stuff. So with this, you can pretty much do anything you want. So I'm actually going to show it with the watch, just to have the full circle here. So here I got a bunch of stuff on. And since this is a generic speech-to-text thing on the watch, it'll recognize commands outside of the set that we've pre-programmed. Engage stealth mode. There, and so now you can see everything turned off.
Ooh.
So that's the first way to customize. And I'll briefly talk about the second here. Second, inside your config custom sentences folder, you can add YAML files that are the same template syntax as the ones we have in the GitHub repo for the crowdsourced sentences. So this gives you access to the full set of things, including being able to add lists of items, numbers, and even override the default responses. So if you don't like how it responds and says, turned on, whatever, you can put your own text in here and you can override the response on each intent. So this gives you kind of full control over it. On the conversation side, you can I just want to add a quick sentence here, kind of thing.
So the way this format is designed, like custom sentences / language / different YAML files, the idea is that just like with blueprints, we're gonna maybe you're really into I don't know, Game of Thrones, and you want to have use Game of Thrones sentences to control your house, or you're like Hocus Pocus, Paw Patrol, whatever you're into, you can actually register those sentences now in Home Assistant, and then you can use either Siri, your watch, to talk to Home Assistant using those sentences, and it will all work. And so you could, for example, you can say, hey, I just want always to get the word Hodor back when you say turn on a light. And this is really cool. And so we expect, just like blueprints, that we're going to be able to share these on the forums. This part is not implemented yet, but we want you to be able to import it easily and being able to update it. So if this is one person that makes a cool Game of Thrones sentence pack, you can import it and later update it as more and more sentences come available. This is really powerful. This really gives you the full access, basically the whole syntax that we use for our built-in sentences, you can use completely yourself. Right.
All right.
Just to basically, if you start using this, Android is available in the beta channel today. The Apple apps will be available later today, maybe tomorrow it will be added to the beta. The Assist is already available inside the Home Assistant beta, which got released yesterday, so you should be able to use that. Now, if you start using it and you realize that certain sentences you expect to work, but they don't work, please let us know, because we are collecting all possible sentences that can ever work. And so you find a sentence that doesn't work, we should make sure we fix that. Now, if you know your way around YAML and you want to help actually add more supported sentences, also please stop by. We have a Devs Voice channel on Discord, and we have an Intents repository where we do all these kind of things. You don't have to be a language leader to contribute. The language leader is kind of the gatekeeper. They know the language that it's about, and they will do the reviews. But anyone can contribute. And if you want to learn more about our voice foundation, everything is documented, not everything, but a lot of it, and we're documenting more. And if something is missing, definitely let us know. So there's APIs for Assist, so you can send text to it. There's intent handling, so if you do your own intent recognition, that can be sent. And
if you don't see your language in the list of supported languages, please join the discussion, and you can join in the Discord server, or you can put an issue on the forum, and we can start figuring out how to get that language started in the intents.
We're always looking for more languages to support, right? Our goal is to support every language that Home Assistant works with. So, if there's people available for translating the Home Assistant UI, then we hope that, some of those people and other people also join us in doing these intents. So I want to actually talk about one bit more thing. So we've talked about how we build out our intent system, and how our intent recognition works, and how we can get from text into intent, and how this is all built into Assist. Now, with Home Assistant, we like flexibility, right? We always make sure that every layer of the stack, basically, you can swap out the technology that's being used. So also in this case, you can actually swap out, and if you don't want to use the intent recognizer that we built, and you don't want to use all the intents and the sentences that we have collected, you can actually replace that engine. For example, with a cloud-based assistant. So I'm going to give you 2 demos. The first one is going to be using Google Assistant. So we've added Google Assistant to Assist. And it means that any interface that can interact with Assist, be it your phone, be it your watch, be it a HomePod, can now talk to Google Assistant. So just to kind of give a demo how that works, I'm going to get my HomePod. So I've made a shortcut that goes to Google that is called Hey Google, so that that is clear. So let's see. Hey Siri, hey Google.
Google here. What's up?
Who makes you?
I was made by a team of people at Google.
Okay, so that's Google. So the kind of interesting thing is that like when you talk to Google, you actually can control things in your house if you have linked your Home Assistant to Google. So the the benefit of the Google Assistant, of course, is that you can query anything on the internet. The downside is, of course, you go to the cloud, you have to give everything to Google. So this is something that people can just decide for themselves, but we think it's kind of funny. The other thing that is really cool is that we have actually added a second conversation agent, and that is one is based on OpenAI. So OpenAI is a company that is currently very famous because they make ChatGPT. Now, ChatGPT is this generic language model that basically you can ask it questions and it will just make stuff up. It doesn't like, that's basically the gist, right? So it doesn't really know what's going on in your house. But it can, it basically knows the structure of text, so it knows how to create an answer that sounds reasonable. So I'm gonna just quickly change my, where is this button? So I'm gonna quickly make sure I add my OpenAI. So this is also these two are part of the beta. For Google, you have to go, when you set up Google Assistant SDK integration, you can go to the config entry options. So there's a configure button in the integrations list. For OpenAI, it is just the integration, you can set it up. My suggestion is like you set it up, you play with it, you disable it when you don't use it because it's really not that useful. We have created a prompt. So we use GPT-3, by the way, which is not ChatGPT, but it's a slightly different model, but that one was available through an API. And we basically add a prompt where we send in the areas that you have, and per area the device names, and in some cases if it's different, the model as well, so that you can ask some questions to ChatGPT, to GPT-3, and get like some reasonable answers. So again, I'm going to use my HomePod as a demo. Hey Siri, hey OpenAI.
OpenAI here. What's up?
Where's my Sonos speaker?
Your Sonos speaker is located in the kitchen. Please use the Home Assistant app to control it.
So, nice. So yeah, that's GPT-3. So you can, it works with all our assist interfaces. We're gonna make it so that you can configure the prompt yourself. It's like a Jinja template, so you can kind of give it more information that you want to query about. The thing is that like it cannot control anything, right? So it's really just for fun, but it's kind of cool that you can like, talk to a HomePod, talk via Siri to GPT-3 and be able to get like random stuff to do. Oh, and the thing is OpenAI is also not free. So I think each query is about like half a cent or a cent, kind of depends on how big your prompt is.
And if you know your stuff, there are some offline worse models that are like GPT-3. I'm going to play with those too. So this integration also serves as a nice blueprint for how you could interact with those over some similar API, right?
Right. So yeah, just kind of a gist, a wrap up of what we have presented today. We have a new feature called Assist. It's built into a Home Assistant. There's no extra hardware necessary. Just update your Home Assistant, you'll be fine. It supports 22 languages completely. There will be a list on the website, a link to which languages those are. You can also use Google Assistant or OpenAI to power the Assist feature, but not as cool. Then for the interface side, you can of course use Assist in Home Assistant, Android Wear, Siri, iPhone, Mac, Apple Watch. All these things work basically wherever Siri works, right? So yeah, so it's really exciting. I think is there anything you want to say about this, Mike?
Yeah, I think we forgot to mention. So one other like little bit down the road idea is the Google Assistant and the OpenAI being not primary but fallback agents, we call them. So the idea would be if you say a sentence that the built-in intent recognizer knows, like turn on the device or whatever, it does it. But if it can't recognize, then it could fall back to Google. So you can get more tell me a joke or ask questions about the internet and stuff. And you kind of get the best of both worlds then, right?
Yeah, and this is actually the nice thing there is that you can use Google Assistant without exposing Home Assistant to it. So it would just be a generic query interface, not knowing anything about your house, but you can still use Home Assistant kind of in front of it to control the things and intercept those sentences.
Yeah.
Right, so like a last slide is kind of a thank you. So this is just, we have, worked on this for like the last month. And so a lot of people have worked on this. It was a big coordination task getting all the different like apps, intents, languages kind of aligned and working, but we made it. Like huge shout out to Mike for all his work there.
Thank you.
You
And
know,
yeah, thanks to everyone the language leaders who stepped up. These are all volunteers. And so it's been great working with people. Sorry if I've not gotten to every single issue, but we're going to keep moving forward and things are going to get better.
Yeah, and I also just want a big shout out to Nabukasa, of course, for like, paying our bills and making it possible that we can just work on this and like hack on this for like a month. And, this is only the beginning. We're planning, this will remain a focus for the year. We're going to have further plans. I think we've really focused now on just intent recognition. The next step is going to be, as Mike also said, speech to text, text to speech, see how we can integrate that in a way that is useful. So yeah, who knows what's going to be next. It's going to be exciting. But of course, the big thing is that we're going to keep collecting sentences. So if you don't see your language fully there, please help out. I actually have one more slide with like, these are all the other people that have contributed to the Intents project as well. So we've had 122 people total that have been working on this.
Yeah, so this has been great, and this has been a great, first month of the year for me. This is not my first month at Nabukasa, but my first month of this year. I think it was second month total in the company. So it's been awesome, dream job, and enjoyed working with Paulus and everybody.
Awesome. So we have some more time. We actually scheduled an hour, but it looks like 40 minutes is enough to do all the stuff. We can, if there's any questions, we can, maybe there's like one or two questions we can do. I can do another demo of my ChatGPT. It's, I gave it a prompt to say it's a smart home, and all of a sudden it becomes very picky in what it wants to answer. Hey Siri, hey OpenAI.
I found some web results.
Hey
You
Siri,
can show them if you ask.
hey OpenAI.
I couldn't find OpenAI in your Apple Music library.
So sometimes like when I speak too slow, then it kind of gets confused. So great, all the demos went great, and now of course it's not. Yeah, somebody at Bearded asked, can you try OpenAI in the browser? Yep. So let me just, I can throw it in. Let me just see. Yeah, so this is my test instance. So if you are using a custom conversation agent, you will actually see that in the bottom right. So if there's nothing you're using Home Assistant, if you see OpenAI or Google, then you see this. So for example, I can be like, how is the weather usually in the summer in Hawaii? So OpenAI knows these kind of things, right?
Or you can at least pretend to.
Yeah, pretend. Yeah, that's true. I have no idea if this is right or not. So yeah, you can try these things in your browser too. You don't need to use a phone or a watch or a HomePod. There were some questions about hardware. So we are looking into hardware, but hardware is hard. So there are some companies that are building like basically support chips for voice assistants. And we're looking into those, seeing if we can come up with something that is like, we'll make it a reasonably priced thing, because like, that people can put like, because you don't want one voice assistant, you want to have 4 or 5 if it's as good as we want it to be. So yeah, we're looking into it, but we're not there yet.
Yeah, something to keep in mind there is that, the big names have been failing with the voice, making it profitable because they've been subsidizing the hardware costs with their attempts to get ad revenue out of them. So hardware is hard, and the real hardware is a little more expensive typically than what they've been able to offer. I mean, they're basically just throwing Echo Dots at people these days, right? Or they were.
They were, yeah. You got them for free, like whatever you did. Yeah. So Andre is asking, will this make Home Assistant more heavy in terms of memory and hard disk space? Not really. So it will use some CPU power just to match the string when it comes in. There's some YAML files extra, but it's really neglectable.
Yeah, it's very minimal. It's very basic, like I said, string matching.
Yeah.
And that's been on purpose, since the goal here has been broad language support and not, every intricacy of English or German or whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a good question. I understand OpenAI needs data. I mean, yeah, that's, the thoughts are like, if you need to share any data that you want, any real data you want to get back in the answer, you need to provide to them, because otherwise they don't know. It's like this model is trained on every bit of text on the internet. And so if you don't tell it the amount of like temperature in your living room, it will either make something up or it will tell you it doesn't know. So yeah, you have to discuss this for yourself, what you feel comfortable sharing. You don't have to share all the data, only the ones you want to query. But in the end, really, I think that the OpenAI integration in Home Assistant is just more like a demo. It is not really useful. We would really have to teach it to spit out like an intent format to process, but I think even then I wouldn't fully trust it.
This is why I like it, the idea of it as the fallback, since then you don't have to give it any data and you could still get its benefits.
Yeah.
If you can convince it to tell you its story. Sometimes it doesn't like doing that.
Yeah, I think, the way I can see it is that like I might have like a custom wake word for like an OpenAI skill in the future when we support multiple engines for assist. And then, for example, you can be like, hey, tell a story about X, Y, or Z, and it will start telling you a story. So that might be interesting for the kids to just be entertained. But yeah, more than entertainment, I don't know. I would trust Google conversation, the Google Assistant more to actually have correct data. This one is for you, Mike.
Possible. There may be. Yeah, I'll have to put together a little tutorial on how to do that. But it is possible to do that today, since Raspberry, typically people put in their Home Assistant token. But yeah, so if you have your Home Assistant token and you basically just post to the conversation service, this API, and that's really it. And Home Assistant will take care of the rest.
For the people that are watching that actually do not know what Raspberry is Mike's baby. It's an open source voice assistant framework that works with all the different speech to text, text to speech, intent recognition systems out there.
Yeah, so you put together like build your own voice assistant kind of thing. And I'm going to get back to upgrading all of that. I know there's a number of services people are anxiously waiting for support for, and so more on that to come in the next month.
Question: will it continue to work with Google? Yeah, we're building our own stuff, but with Home Assistant we're all about choice. So as long as the Google Assistant API continues to work, we'll continue to maintain it. We will be integrating with them, and so it's up to users which integrations they want to activate and which things they want to do. The way we see it with Home Assistant is that we want to, we are not going to be privacy absolutists and just like kick everything out that is not 100% local, because we also want to provide people a migration path into Home Assistant, or some people have different levels of how much privacy they're willing to share with companies. So, if we would not have Google, then maybe people that are interested in Home Assistant but are still relying on parts of Google would not join, because they don't want to do 100% migration right away. So no, Google will continue to work, and we have no intention of kicking them out. Rosemary asks, can we use ESP Muses with Assist? So we have been playing with can we have the microphone stream, but then you have to do, this is more like Raspberry territory, I guess, right?
Yeah. So I think there will be a path for something like this in the future, before the end of the story here in the Year of Voice. Yeah, we need mic streaming, and there are a number of wake word technologies we want to work with.
this one, will you be able to integrate Google Cloud text-to-speech, speech-to-text? So that is something that we are actually looking at. We already, through Home Assistant Cloud by Nabokasa, subscribers have access to the Azure speech-to-text, text-to-speech APIs. We're also gonna probably integrate these if they're easy, and then also have local options. So that way, you know, an audio stream comes in, we process it, we generate an audio stream to be played somewhere. And what that somewhere is, we're still looking into as well. All right. I think that's it for the questions. I want to thank everybody for coming to the stream today. Everything we said today, we are going to publish as a blog post, so you can, like, you know, look at it again without having to look at through the whole stream. Share it with your friends. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you get updated on like the latest and greatest streams and videos on this channel. We're going to be back next week. Release party, Home Assistant Core 2023.2. The February release, it's already wild, the second one. It's a big one, it's awesome. It has all the voice stuff we talked about today, plus so much more. It's going to be really cool. And lastly, again, if you want to support our work, please subscribe to Home Assistant Cloud by Nabokasa. It helps us work on Home Assistant, build out this cool stuff, you know, and build out more open source stuff. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, everyone.